Welcome back to the Harbinger podcast. Today we're joined by Renfroe's Market, a family business that started with one small grocery store in Montgomery back in 1997. And what began around their kitchen table has now grown into quite the business with 8 locations in total. Rob shares some really valuable insight and some wisdom that I know that you can benefit from. Enjoy. Well, Rob, thank you so much for being here today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
So I want to, first off, I just ask you to describe Renfroe's Market. What is it? And then take us back to the very beginning and how did it start?
So Renfroe's Market, I guess our tagline is to be Alabama's premier independent grocery store. So what that means to us is we're an independent grocer. We have 8 locations in central Alabama based out of Montgomery. And so we are just trying to be the best that we can be for the communities that we're in.
That's awesome. I met your father, and he started the business, correct?
He did. So my dad started the business in 1997. He was in the wholesale grocery business his entire life leading up to that point. He one of his roles, I guess, in that was that he would call on independent grocers, and one of those gentlemen asked him to buy his store when he was going to retire. He didn't want to do that initially. He was happy with what he had, just as the story goes, as he tells it, and he decided after some some back and forth with the owner of that store that he would do that. And so that was in 97. I was in, I think, 9th grade at the time, and would work there, on the weekends or bagging groceries or helping stock or that type of stuff.
There was just one store at the time?
Just one store at the time.
Gotcha.
And, I didn't have a big role or anything like that. Went to school, came back in 2006, and I was trying to find a job. As my dad likes to say, he did not want me to be in the grocery business. He thought it was more, it was a 365, 24/7, 365. So he wanted me to go find something else to do. In that time when I was trying to find a job, I worked for him just on and off during the holidays. And we had a conversation, and I asked him if I could go to work for him full time. And we sat at the kitchen table, and it was my dad, my mom, and I. And if you ever met my dad, especially back then, he's mellowed out a little bit now, but back then he was, you're going to come to work when I tell you to come. You're going to do what I ask you to do. You're going to pretty much, you don't have a say-so until I feel like that you have some value to bring to the company, in a positive way, right? But and so I took that and kind of adhered to that for a number of years, and we ended
And this
up.
was after college?
This was after college, and
What was the pros and cons list in your head of like this opportunity versus other things that you were considering?
I don't know if I was thinking, about that as much as just needed a paycheck at the time, and was able to do that. I did see a value in potentially growing the business at that time. I'm not the kind of person that likes to maybe sit or be in the same place for a long time, and I want to be out and move around, and so I didn't want to be stuck, I guess, in those 4 walls, all day, every day. So I wanted to be able to figure out how to grow the business. And so in 2008, we were able to open our second location in Dadeville. The first location was in Montgomery, Alabama. And then Dadeville came along. When we bought that, my dad was the store manager of the Dadeville location, and I ran the McGee Road location. And we did that until 2014, where we opened our third location in Montgomery. And from there, we've just kind of, scaled it or figured out how to grow from there. And we currently have 8 locations.
Wow. So going back to, you said 9th grade was when he bought that store?
That's correct.
So how did that process work? Did he do like a long-term buyout from the existing owner?
No, he didn't. It was
Like under finance?
Well, no, you go to the SBA at that
Okay,
point
gotcha.
and get a loan. And there was another conversation we had at the kitchen table that said, we have no money,
Yeah.
and so we're gonna everything we have is gonna go towards this business to make it work. And so because when middle income family and wanted to purchase that location and were able, or he was able, to be able to make that work.
So what was that conversation? If you could pull the curtain back a little bit at the kitchen table, because I mean, that's something that I think that's the reason I love our podcast, hearing stories like that. It's like, okay, family, we're going to go get in a bunch of debt and buy a grocery store.
That was the conversation. Yeah, that was it.
How'd your mom feel about it?
She, actually, her dad helped with a little bit of the financing on that to be able to purchase that first store. And so she was, she worked full time as in the business department at the school that I was actually going to in Montgomery at the time. And so it just made sense.
What do you think when you said your dad was like, I don't think that you need to be in this business? What was the downside?
I think he just saw the time that it took. The grocery business is very difficult. A lot of competition. The margins are very low. In our business, if we make 3 pennies on a dollar after everything's said and done, we're doing really good. Wow. And so, I think he saw that.
What do you think your dad did best? Like when you think of him as an entrepreneur, business owner, starting at that business, what would you say like he did really, really well?
My dad has a knack of, and he can still today do this, even though he's not in the stores as much. He can be able to walk into a store and not be in there for a number of days or whatever it is, and kind of know exactly what happened while he was gone. It's weird how he can kind of see, I guess the fact that he knows the business so well, knows the ins and outs, what's supposed to happen, when it's supposed to happen.
A lot of our partners are in multi-generational family businesses. And, there's big upsides to that. There's sometimes downsides to that. How did y'all approach the relational dynamic of father, son working in the same business? What was that like?
Looking back, and it's funny that we had that conversation, but I think he was smart enough to have that conversation early on with me. And I don't think he did it in a negative way as much. It was just kind of, this is what it has to be for it to work. Because you do see a lot of family members that kind of are at odds with one another as they're working. And he and I never had that. We had always had a great working relationship. I think part of that was me coming in and kind of learning before I expected a bunch of things to change or do things my ways, But, and there's I think Sierra Nevada has on their can, it says family owned and argued over. So it's a little label on their can. I think it's perfect because it's, that's any small business, right? And I think part of that is because there's, as they say, a bunch of cooks in the kitchen. Everybody kind of steps on each other's toes a little bit.
And there's skin in the game. It's personal.
And it's personal. You're exactly right. Yeah. I mean, it's
part of you.
It's make or break by the decisions that we make on a daily basis. And so you want to make sure you get those right. What
advice would you give to someone entering into a family business that might set them up well for success?
You do have to kind of come back in and look at it from they were successful for a reason. Let me see what I can learn from that person before I try and bring my 2 cents to the table.
So come to it with some humility.
It comes with humility, and hopefully by the time that you have served a little bit of time and understood how the business works, then you can bring something that is of value, whether it's an idea or things like that, rather than speaking, ignorantly on things.
So take us back to that time where maybe that idea and that value that you wanted to bring, the first time that your dad was like, yeah, I'll let you do it. Go with it. So
we, there's another store owner in Opelika, Alabama, Jimmy Wright. And Jimmy and my dad are really good friends. My dad was the best man in his wedding. And Jimmy and I went to a conference in New York. And I don't even remember why we were there, what the conference was about. But we met another company there that was doing what's called Pick 5. And what Pick 5 is it is 5 packages of meat for a specified amount. When we first started, it was $19.99. With inflation and things like that, we're now at $24.99. But you can mix and match from fresh meat to frozen meat to lunch meat. Different things like that you can get in this program. Mix and match 5 packages for $24.99. And so we brought that idea back from that conference, and I sat down with Dad and I said, I think we need to take half this meat case and make it Pick 5 fresh meat. And he looked at me and said, are you crazy? and we didn't take half of it, but we took a quarter of it. And we did that and made a spreadsheet and figured out the weights and how much meat needed to go in a package to be able to sell it for that price at that time. And it was really great for us as a business. People really saw value in it. People really kind of took to it very quickly, and we were able to grow our meat business through that. Another one, we were sitting on the back aisle. I don't remember, we were there after hours one night, and we had some cereal on a pallet that we had bought, pallet quantities of cereal. And we had a price on, I think it was regular price, from whatever the price on the shelf was. And I looked at Dad and I said, well, what if we take this and we put 2 for $5 on it instead of $2.99, or, just for round numbers. I don't remember what it was. And maybe we can move this a lot quicker, and then we can get some more and, just turn it quicker. And he was like, all right, we can try that. And we did. And that pallet sold out in a quarter of the time that it would have if if we'd have kept the price on it. And so from there, we just, we started kind of taking that mentality with pallet quantity items, kind of make a little less margin on them, and try and get those turns. And so those are the two that I guess are in my brain as far as examples of when I was kind of able to bring some value to the business.
What do you think his driving motivation was to let go, or to enable or empower you to make some of those decisions? Do you think it was conscious? Was it something that he thought about and prepared for? Or do you think it just happened more organically?
I think it probably just happened more organically.
Yeah.
I think it just, those two opportunities, we didn't go to that conference thinking we were gonna bring that idea back, and we weren't planning on having that conversation in the back aisle. So I think it's just one of those things where you have a conversation and things come out of it that you weren't expecting. And they just happen to be good things.
Yeah. How about the second location? What was that like? Was that something that a lot of discussion, or was there debate, or were you all both aligned, let's do another location?
That opportunity came around. It was our wholesaler owned the building, and the gentleman that was in there was not operating, and was wanting to sell it. And so Dad found it and purchased the store. And I kind of overnight became a store manager when I really wasn't expecting to. I called my sister. Sister's in the education business. She was a principal at a magnet elementary school based in Montgomery. And at that time, I asked her, I said, what do I need to do? I'm mid 20s, early 20s, and I'm trying to tell people that are, twice as old as me what to do on a daily basis. And she said, all you can do is just be consistent. What you tell one person to do, expect somebody else to do, or you go do it yourself, and be consistent through everything that you do. Treat everybody the same way. So that's kind of one of the things. I remember having that conversation with her, and I remember, that's kind of one of the things that we hold true today, is we just want to be consistent in our business. But yeah, so getting back to what you were asking, he went up there and ran that store, and I ran the one in Montgomery, and it wasn't a whole lot of conscious decisions there on my end. It was more him, and it turned out it was a great business decision. The store still own that store today, and is a great store for us.
What you shared about the margin of the business, to me, it makes sense scaling, because it's like there's a certain amount of overhead that's covered, whether it's you're managing 2 stores or 3 to some degree, right? Mm-hmm. So what about the third and the fourth? How'd that come about?
So the third, that's where it kind of got to the point where I look back on the third now and I think to myself, what in the world was I thinking? Ignorance is bliss, I guess, in some ways. We opened, our third location was a store in East Montgomery, and it was 54,000 square feet. It was the last Bruno's building. If you're familiar with Bruno's and that brand, it was the last building that they built. And we were able to negotiate a lease. They were a sublease actually through the company that had still was honoring the lease that Bruno's had. So we were able to get in there at a really good rent factor. So I'm thinking to myself, okay, well, but going from an 18,000 square foot store and a 22,000 square foot store to a 54,000 square foot store is a different world, and I guess I didn't realize that it was that big of a deal until you kind of look back on it now and you think to yourself, what in the world was I thinking? That was pretty ignorant.
What went wrong? What was the major pain points?
Well, our POS system at that time was not where it needed to be. We were a little behind technologically as far as being able to enter items into the system and keep up with price changes and, keep up with everything that needed to go through the register system. So that was a big pain point for us. I think just item selection, when you're trying to fill a store that large, being able to get the right items that you need, that at that point in time, that store was more kind of an affluent customer base, and so you needed things that weren't just your staple goods, and so you had to kind of bring some things. So going out and trying to find those, convincing our wholesaler, Mitchell Grocery, that we needed some things that they didn't carry at the time, and they were terrific in helping us procure those.
But I'm just curious now, what is that investigation process like? Did you just go walk in the aisles of other grocery stores and look at the things and take notes? And
we, when we first opened, we had a customer, a mailbox that we put at the front. And if we didn't have something that somebody wanted, they wrote it on a piece of paper and they stuck it in the mailbox. Wow. And we would open it up on a daily basis and go and, figure out how to get that. There were times where we would go to other retailers and go buy that item and if we couldn't get it from one of our warehouses, and we would just put the same price that we bought it for, just to match their price. We'd lose obviously the tax on it, but it made our customers happy at that time. So, it was just, it's a kind of a shock going from a store that might have 30 employees in it, 35 employees, to a store that's got, 60 employees in it. Trying to, the timekeeping system, the overall HR aspect of things, it just kind of put us on a different level and I'm not saying that we weren't successful. We're still there today. That's 11, 12 years later, we're still there and still operating. And so I think overall it made us a better company. We were able to work those kinks out and kind of re-examine the things that we were not good at, and that we could get better at. And I think that we did that, and we did it in a way that was timely enough. I'm not going to say that we were perfect at it, but it was timely enough to be able to be successful. And I think going through that, it really helped us be able to create, it helped us to create the things that we needed to do, the processes, the people skills, all that type of stuff to be successful, to be able to scale, if that makes sense.
It reminds me of something our friend Alan Kemper says: growth and comfort rarely coexist.
That's very true.
So you had to be put in that situation to really stretch your team, stretch yourself, and then cause you to grow. So
very much so.
So then how quickly did the next few stores happen?
So that was 2014 when we opened that store. Our fourth store was in 2019, I believe. So we had a little bit of a gap there between the stores. And then from there, it just kind of took off. We opened 2 in 2020, and we were not expecting to open them in 2000, so close to one another. We were going to do one at the beginning of the year and one at the end of the year. And then COVID happened, and it kind of, product procurement was really tough. And so we had an issue with that, and they ended up opening a month apart from one another, which was interesting.
Wow.
And then the 23, I believe, and then 24. So
Wow.
a lot of growth recently. So we've been very fortunate.
What do you think has made y'all, like, if you had to think of the one attribute that has made y'all successful? Because there's a lot of grocery stores that open up that doesn't make it, they go out of business. So what do you think is that secret sauce for you guys?
It kind of sounds cliche, at this point in time, but customer service really is what you want to hang your hat on. And when people think of customer service, they think of, speaking to people and telling them thank you and all that type of stuff. And that is customer service, and you want to be really good at that. But there's other ways of adding customer service that people don't necessarily think of customer service. That's having the product when that customer comes in to want to buy it, not being out on the shelf. It's, the cleanliness in the store, making sure that you're providing a shopping environment that you would want to shop at, or that you would want your family to shop at. So that, to me, that goes into the customer service aspect. Having the product selection that people want, having the items that they can get other places, they can get at your place as well. And again, also just speaking to customers, thanking them, letting them know that you appreciate them spending their money with you. They can go a lot of different places. So all those things to me kind of come in when you're talking about customer service. So, having a clean environment, have the items that they want when they come in, make sure they're fresh, the quality is where it needs to be. And then when they leave, when they're checking out, thank them and make sure that they understand that you appreciate them coming to your place of business, other than spending your money somewhere else.
How have you made those principles, like those values as a company, like instilled? Because obviously you can't be at every store and make sure that all that happens, but like, what wisdom might you share on like how you've systematized that process to make all your people follow that vision?
And that's difficult. As you scale, I think that's one of the more difficult pieces of creating. You don't want to create robots, right? You want to, and I say that tongue in cheek a little bit, but you want to create processes and expectations from people, but you can't tell them exactly what to do every moment of the day, because then that just becomes a sterile shopping environment that nobody wants to be, a part of, either from employment or from a customer standpoint. So you kind of have to make it. It has to be genuine, it has to be organic, but you also have to kind of set expectations and allow them to, the employees to follow those expectations. Whether it is just thanking a customer, how you interact with that customer to thank them for shopping, whether it's, how we cut meat, how we prepare a meat case, product selection in the produce department, that type of stuff, kind of all goes into, I think, what you're asking. But it's more just creating guardrails, right? And allowing people to just stay within those guardrails for us.
So switching gears a little bit, let me ask you about your personal journey through this process. So coming in right after, what was the age that you started back in the grocery store?
So I'd worked in the grocery store when I was 15, just bagging groceries or doing some things on the weekends. And I remember I would always ask my dad, when can I go home? And he would say, just, here in a little while. That was kind of his response to me every time. So I didn't get a great taste in my mouth when I was younger, just because I never knew when I was going to leave or what was coming next. But yeah, just kind of bagging groceries, did that through high school. I wasn't, expected to be there a certain amount every week. I wasn't expected. He kind of allowed me to be a kid, I guess. Going to college and then coming back, that was, I guess, a choice more than an expectation.
How have you had to, as an individual, develop to be in the role that you are now when you think about coming back from college? Like, what's the biggest challenges you have professionally had to overcome to be where you're at today?
Going back to what I was saying about consistency and knowing that no matter who you're dealing with, if you have those expectations, and being consistent in enforcing those, whether it's, dress code, whether it's, how we take care of the customers at the front end, whether it's, whatever it is, as long as we're consistent in how we treat everyone, then nobody really can have anything negative to say. If you're in a Renfroe's market here, or if you're an hour away, you're getting that same shopping experience. We can make that person feel like they're in a Renfroe's market, no matter which one they're in.
Personally, though, like when you think about the journey of growing from, I guess, 2-3 stores, and then as you've taken on more leadership and grown, like what have you had to overcome? Like when you look in the mirror and you see the difference that in the way you've grown, what do you think you've had to personally overcome?
I think learning how to be a little more hands off, and again, create those programs and create those expectations, and allowing them to other people potentially to help you create those, and then also help you, make sure those come to fruition in the store has been a little hard. We've always tried to hire from within, and tried to promote from within. Our COO was a store manager for us at one time, and he, is now kind of overall the daily operations. Our produce supervisor that is overall the produce departments was a produce manager for us. Deli is the same way. Our store managers, I think there's 5 out of the 8 store managers were assistant managers at one time that have, moved up. So, awesome. Everybody kind of understands what we're trying to accomplish and kind of sees the big picture, and they help, facilitate expectations.
Yeah, it sounds like you're really creating not just expectations, but creating opportunities for those team members that came on board, and now that you've grown, they've grown.
We've tried it the other way, and it just doesn't work. You try and bring people in, or if you brought somebody in to be a store manager from a different organization, it just didn't work. That's happened, I think, 2 or 3 times now. So, but then when you bring somebody that has been with you and understands your program and understands, what makes you successful, it's just a natural fit, and it seems to work every time.
So as a business owner, what would you say is most personally gratifying or satisfying for you at this stage in the business?
Watching people grow with your company, watching people, grow into different roles, whether it be somebody that was at the store level and is now on the executive team, or, just somebody that was a bagger and wants to, has moved up and is now a meat cutter or a meat department manager. Just seeing the growth of those people, and knowing that because we grew as a company, those opportunities were available where they wouldn't necessarily have been if we didn't grow as a company.
That's awesome. Yeah, our mission, I've shared it with you before, but it's to be a catalyst for growth to the businesses we serve, because we believe that thriving businesses foster thriving individuals. Mm-hmm. Meaning, if we can help you grow and help you achieve your goals, we know that has a direct impact on your employees,
for sure,
and on their families. And ultimately, that's an amazing thing. I think it's something that is often not seen in business owners, that they're really for their people, and that's special.
Yeah, I agree. You've made a comment in the past that, when corporations want to start, the first thing they look at is people to maybe cut to save money. Whereas I think as an independent grocer or a small business owner in general, you look to other things to cut before you cut people. And I think that makes a big difference.
100%. 100%. So when you think about the future of where you're heading, what's the future look like for Renfroe's?
You hope a lot of the same. We are actually on schedule, I guess, to open another location in November of this year. So that will make nine locations, and just always looking for that next opportunity. We're more of we're not necessarily as proactive growth. We're kind of take opportunities as they come. I think that I would like to maybe get a little more proactive in our growth strategy, whether that's going and recognizing cities that we'd like to be a part of, or maybe it's reaching out to other store owners that are kind of in that period of their life when they're wanting to retire, that type stuff. I think just kind of being a little more organized when it comes to kind of our growth strategy.
Well, you're really proactive with your marketing. So, I mean,
Yeah,
match the growth strategy there. Yeah,
for sure. Yeah, Harbinger has been a tremendous asset for us as far as the tools that y'all bring to the table for us to get our message out to people. We could do it ourselves, and we could put a flyer on the street, and we could do a Facebook post every now and then. But the way that y'all really kind of interact with people and the different mediums that y'all go to, whether it's YouTube or Google or Facebook or just any kind of social media type things, or search engine optimization, all that type stuff, it really helps us pinpoint who and where we need to be talking to people. And I think that the new product that we're able to use, Placer AI, has done y'all are doing a tremendous job going through that as well. And that's helping us
cool
really
tool.
pinpoint who we're talking to.
Before you knew that tool, did you know that each cell phone has its own advertiser ID attached to it?
So I knew about Placer AI when I guess it's been probably 5 years ago now. I was somewhere and we were looking at it, and it just didn't make sense for us at the time because of cost. I know what it was. It was when we opened our Phoenix City store in 2020. The city of Phoenix City helped us run some reports from Placer AI through the help of Alabama Power. And we were able to get some information off of that. And I could tell just in those few little reports that we got, it just kind of it was really in depth. And then they went through and told us how it worked. And I really want to do it then. And then it just, the cost of it was not, it's not feasible at that time. And so whenever y'all were able to bring that option to the table for us, and kind of help out with the cost where you could spread it out between a number of customers, it really helped with us.
Yeah, Placer AI is one thing to get the data, like just the report itself, for making business decisions or location decisions, but to be able then to take that data set and then put it right into meta ads and say, target people just like this, it makes the data actually useful versus it just being like, we've talked to several other partners and organizations that have had AI-driven demographic tools before, but it was kind of the report that sat on the shelf. It's like, well, it's good to know who our customers are, but then how do we actually apply it and do something with it?
Right.
It's a tremendous tool. On the topic of Harbinger, how would you, if I gave a potential partner, your number and said, hey, tell them about Harbinger, what would you describe Harbinger as?
I told David Parker this a few weeks ago. My wife and I came up for y'all's recognition day. You have to help me with
the wing day.
Wing day, yeah. And we came up for that, and we sat in and ate wings and pizza, and then listened to y'all's presentation. And the one thing that I took away from that was just the way that y'all work together. Y'all seem like a family, and I know that's kind of an overused term, but it was great to see everybody happy about other people's success. And it wasn't this person did something, so now I got to go do something even better so that I can, look good in everybody's eyes. It was, that was a win for that person. That was a win for the company that I work for. And so therefore it's a win for me.
Yeah.
And so I think that the way that y'all interact with one another, I told David, I said, every person, every new customer that y'all sign needs to come to Wing Day, because
it's kind of odd. I've gotten so much good feedback on it, but it sort of feels weird. Like this is like a company meeting, and it's like I wonder what people perceive it as, because the Wing Day thing started with like, I don't know, 6 or 7 of our team members when I was first starting out, and I just said, well, let's bring lunch in. And they just always wanted wings, so we just ordered wings, and then it just slowly evolved into, well, hey, we're having everyone have lunch. Let's just take some time to celebrate people's wins, the things that they're doing to help our partners win. And so it's kind of interesting to hear about it from someone else's perspective.
Well, the whole day I was just sitting there, I was thinking, this is, I need to figure out a way. And I've talked to you in the past of, we have 8 locations and everything's kind of spread out. Our furthest location's an hour and a half from the other one. And so how do you create that camaraderie between people that are an hour and a half away from one another? Yeah. But and so it's harder for us, but for y'all to be able to be under one roof and be able to do that, it's a no brainer, because it reinforces, the fact that people are successful.
Yeah.
And it reinforces that I'm happy for you because you were successful. And so just watching everybody kind of interact, go through the slideshows and talk about where they are on different projects and what they've done to be successful, and then see people genuinely happy for them in doing that, was fun to watch. Mm-hmm. I'll be honest.
Yeah, we're big believers in what is rewarded gets repeated, and so it's one thing to just recognize people for, oh, you made a great video, but it's another to recognize them for character qualities, or for going the extra mile, or for doing something that they probably didn't think people saw, but we recognize them anyway for it. And so, yeah, it's a really special time, and it's been so organic in the way that has come about. So
you can really see that people care about the people they work with when you sit in on one of those.
Yeah, no, they really do. And it comes from a place of caring about our partners, because we just really believe that you guys are the heroes, the unsung heroes, unfortunately, that oftentimes don't get recognized. And so if we can be part of that success and like helping you grow, like I know that makes an impact on your team members and the people that you care about. So.
Sure. Well, yeah, I agree. Yeah. I can't say enough good things about just the communication. You asked kind of what Harbinger means to us. The communication between our team that works with us, and knowing what they're working on. We've had other companies in the past where they would just do a presentation at the end of the month and say, hey, you got this many clicks and this many views. And you're sitting there thinking, well, what does that really, mean? Because in brick and mortar, it's hard to really figure out that ROI on advertising. And it's hard to know, well, we put an ad on the street or we put a Facebook post out there. What do we get off of that? Yeah. And that's tough for us, because in our business, like I mentioned, the return, the net income at the bottom is 3 cents, 3 cents on the dollar, so you got to make sure that those dollars are used very wisely to communicate with people. And so, when it comes down to that, being able to talk to that team on a weekly basis and understand, we're doing this, what deals do you have coming up? How do we want to create that image, or how do we want to put that out there for people? Looking at the statistics of what's coming back on all the different mediums that they're throwing it out on, it's good for us to be able to see all that.
Yeah.
Does it, at the end of the day, can you pinpoint, at least in our business, that this customer came in because of this? Yeah. You can't, but it at least it makes you feel better.
You're doing the right things. It's like, that if people see a quality ad and they're directed to a quality landing page and they're looking for the service, they're typing in grocery store, right? They're hopefully not doing that recreationally with no intention of ever shopping. So you're in the right place. But towards that end, I always say that there's no silver bullet in marketing that works for just everyone. And I'm glad to hear you talk about our team, because I think that's really what Harbinger is all about. Like, we can provide the team that feels like they're your marketing director down the hall and that they care. And ultimately, if you have good people who are competent in their craft and they care about our partners, that's what works. There's not a single tool, a single ad campaign. It's competent people who care, and that's really what we strive for.
It's a great way of putting it. I agree.
Yeah. Well, one last line of questioning for you that I think that our audience would be interested in, and I think in general, business owners, entrepreneurs, people who are growing businesses often struggle with a balance of life. Like, how do they win professionally but not look up 10, 20 years down the road and everything else in their life is a disaster? How have you personally managed the pressures of work and everything else that's in your life?
You know, a lot of it to me, I think, is the people that you have around you. You know, you have to be confident in their abilities, have to be confident in the fact that you don't have to necessarily be involved in every decision that's made. Again, you want to create those guardrails of what's acceptable and what's unacceptable in a business. You know, I told somebody this the other day. To me, there's three ways of going to market to do a business. And one of them is, you know, mom and pop, you know, on one end of the spectrum. And on the other end of the spectrum is a corporation. We just want to be somewhere in the middle. We want to be a professional organization. And in doing so, we want to set, you know, the guardrails of what we expect, and what we feel like we have to do to be successful as a company. And once you can get those set, and people can buy into, you know, this is what is, you know, needed of me to be successful in this role of the business, then it allows me to feel comfortable in the day to day. But at the end of the day, it all comes back down to people and, you know, feeling comfortable with our store managers, that they understand the expectations, that they understand what they need to do to be successful in the eyes of, you know, of the company. And then also for our executive team, and knowing it's kind of the same situation, knowing what success looks like. And if you can set those expectations and people can understand what success looks like, then they're going to, you know, kind of move in that direction and do the things that makes us successful. And it makes my life easier than trying to, you know, try and make every decision or try and, you know, be involved in every facet of the business. You know, obviously you have to, the old saying, inspect what you expect, you know, but being able to do that and not necessarily have to be there.
You expect them to take ownership of it.
Exactly.
You have high expectations that then they rise to.
Yeah.
So that you don't have to be there.
And I think you know, I would hope, you know, I would think that you're kind of in the same boat. You don't need to be making decisions for every single, you know, ad campaign that goes out, you know, but you have put people in a position that you feel confident that they're going to make the correct decision. Do they make the correct decision 100% of the time? You know, probably not, you know, but you just take those and you look at them and say, well, I would have done it this way, or let's talk about this. And maybe we could have done it a different way to be a little more successful. But more times than not, they're going to make the decision that's for the betterment of the company and, you know, what they feel is the right thing to do. So giving them the autonomy to be able to make those decisions and do the things that they feel are right allows me to have a little more freedom and work-life balance.
Zig Ziglar said, if you help enough people get what they want, eventually you'll get what you want. And so what I heard you say is that that you focus on getting the people the opportunity and the autonomy to know what to do. And then ultimately that's what creates the balance of life for you.
Correct.
Yeah. That's good wisdom. Well, is there anything I should have asked that I didn't? Any exciting stories, things that were just on your mind? You're like, hey, the podcast has to hear about this.
I appreciate the opportunity to come in and speak, and thank y'all for everything you've done for our company to get where we are and hopefully to continue to grow. But no, overall, I think that we're just very fortunate that, you know, we've made some of the decisions we've made, and you look back on it and you say, well, I probably wouldn't have made that decision if I had the knowledge that I have now. And so going back to my original comment, ignorance is bliss sometimes. So
It's some luck, it's
and
some
so
wisdom.
A lot of luck.
And we'll never probably know which is which.
Exactly. I don't think I'd wanted it. Hopefully at the end of the day, my dad always says, and you got to treat the day like a puzzle. At the morning, it's all broken apart. And if everybody does their piece at the end of the day, you've put that together.
That's good.
Right. And then you wake up the next morning, you tear it all apart and you do it again. Wow. And so that's kind of the way that we like to think about the way we go to business.
That's awesome. Well, it's a real honor to be a part of y'all's story. And I'm hoping that we can be a tremendous part of your growth in the coming decade.
For sure. Thank you.
Thank you for being on.
Thank you.